All right, well, here's another piece. Earlier, I was over there on the keyboard. You can't see it right now. Yeah, you can. There it is, that keyboard. Working on music to another song. And, oops, now it's all crooked. That's all right. So, working on music to another song. And then in the middle here, we did a little bit of the bass track to the song that you heard a little of if you saw the other, and that was Rainbow in the Rain. And so when we were doing the bass track in there, and then I've gone ahead and finished the bass track up, checked it and made sure it was okay. Then I've done drum track, and I'll show you what that looks like or sounds like actually. Interestingly enough, I don't know if this interests you or not, but I'll show you a little bit about what modern recording looks like. In the old days, of course, you had a great big studio with a big 8-foot mixing board. Nowadays, that right there are tracks. Those are recording tracks. In the old days, you had a piece of tape that was 2-inch wide. Those 2-inch tape, and you'd have 24 tracks on there, 24 little magnetic tracks. And when I first started in the business, I had a 1-inch 16 track, and then the 2-inch 24 was the high fidelity stuff, and I guess you could put 32 tracks on 2 inches wide tape, but we never did. 24 was what it was made to, is higher fidelity. And eventually they went to 48 track digital, and then that was the days when you started seeing ADD or AAD on CDs, right? It would tell you how many generations were analog and how many were digital. The first generation being the actual tape, was recorded on digital or audio or analog to start with, and then the mastering and then the reproduction. But anyway, it's funny because today, even though all of it's in the box and there's tracks, this would have been the drum tracks right there, and that would have been like 6 tracks on a 24 track, because you mic the drums all separately, and then the piano might have been 1 or 2, and the bass would have been 1. And then, of course, here's another piece of the software that looks just like the old 8-foot mixing boards. And by the time I get done, I'll have faders all the way across here. And so this will be a full, 30 or 40 or 50 track mix by the time we get done, as I add parts and keep adding things across there. And they look just like the old faders. And in the old days, of course, I had an 8-foot mixing board that went from here to the wall and did that in the studio those days. So what we're going to do now, I'll let you listen to a little bit of it with the drums in it so you get a sense of that. And then I'm going to do a rough scratch vocal. Now, I'm not going to go in the vocal booth, which is over there. I'll do that another time, but I will sing along with the music, and then you can get a sense of what it sounds like and what it's going to sound like mixed. Now, of course, none of this is mixed. The drums aren't mixed. Nothing is tuned up like it is when you get done mixing it and you put reverb and effects and you get all the balance just right and you put polish on it and spiff it up, making it sound like a record. That'll be done later after all the tracks were done. Mixing by itself takes a whole day per song. So that's why artists generally do an album in a year, or maybe 2 if they're really pushing it, but there's a lot of work. And if you get 50 tracks along the bottom here, that's a lot of work, because everything has to be balanced. Sometimes the levels have to go up and down, and in the old days, of course, you had to run around and mark them and move them by hand, and now it's all automated, and you can automate the fader movements and stuff like that. So after you get it all tuned up, then you don't make mistakes mixing, because then it's in automation. All right, so I'm going to put the camera back up over here, and I'll give you a chance to hear what the things we did the other day, not the other day, but in the earlier sounded like, the drums. And there you go. And over here, and this stuff here is all some analog gear. And so it's funny because nowadays, all the plugins that you buy for the software, what they do? They emulate the old analog gear we used to have, because now it's, the analog gear is too brittle and it doesn't sound as rich and full. And so the plugins you now pay hundreds of dollars to get to use are now emulating these old, and they were revered then, these really revered pieces of analog gear, but when we went to digital, it was like, well, we don't need that anymore. Now it's funny because that's all you can, that's what you want to get, is these old analog pieces of gear. So here's how the partly finished song goes with respect to drums, bass, and piano. well, that gives you a sense. It goes on and so forth. And all, of course, it is a soundtrack without the music. It's kind of like a karaoke piece, right? Because the music's missing or the vocals missing. And now, of course, there'll be a few more things. There's a part in here that's a guitar solo that's not in yet, but you'll see where that is when I do the vocals. And then there'll be some strings, because this is a ballad. And so you'll have some string parts and some other things that go in there that are still in my head that you haven't, or that you don't know yet. And I'm not even sure of all of them. But you'll get a chance to hear that. All right, so let's back it up. And again, like I said, that's raw without really being mixed, except just a little bit, so it's not too loud. Too loud on one part than another. All right, now I'll throw in some vocals here, just as I sit here, and give you a sense of how the song goes. I felt the blood run through my fingers. I knew my life was slipping away. My vision and my mind were full of strangers and voices I don't know all seemed to say, well, there's just no way to change the situation. So I made my peace with having lost the war. But then, just before I gave in to the darkness, I heard a voice that I had heard somewhere before say, you only really die when you quit trying. So what the hell do you really got to lose? Except the shame, the fear, the guilt and sorrow, and all the useless pain that you still cling to. This part right here is where the guitar solo is going to be. If you listen to this kind of music, I'm sure you've heard it before, you can hear it. Well, I woke up with a jolt 'cause I was screaming. The sun was in my eyes and I could see that I did not understand where I had gone to, or who had brought me back and set me free. Then I slowly realized I was not dreaming, but somewhere out of body far away. Seemed to have another chance at living, and I swore that I would take it day by day. 'Cause you only really die when you quit trying. So throw away the stories and the shame. Fight to make the most of life around you, no matter what they say or who's to blame. And someday maybe there will be another who you can help because you know the pain. So live and love each day like it's forever, and choose to find a rainbow in the rain. Choose to find the rainbow in the rain. Okay, so that's how the song goes, and there's a bunch of other parts to go, but I'm sharing this with you in this, managing or walking the tightrope, because this is a creative process for music. Not just mine. I've done dozens of albums with hundreds, maybe thousands of other people, all the way through from concept to, charting it out, to getting studio musicians in, to recording full bands and the whole 9 yards. And it's at least one take on the creative process. There's others, I suppose. But the point here isn't for you just to see this creative process. It's for you to think about yours. And the times that you get discouraged, and whether or not you want to give up and see the rainbow or the rain. So we just finished up looking at a bit of the creation of that song, and the message, of course, was the choice that we have about the rainbow or the rain. And obviously I'm not in the studio here. I'm doing some Christmas shopping, and even here there's choices. I look at the people. Some people are just excited and having a great time, and here in the same mall, in the same space, breathing the same air, there's people looking harried and rushed and sad and anything but happy. And it's the choice. It is the opportunity to create our lives every minute that we have, and we sometimes squander. Now, a little bit more about the creative process. I'm going to take you jamming back in the studio and run through a little speed work, a little speed video about a little bit more of the creative process, to give you some more insight into how the choices get made and how the music gets made. So if you'd love to see that, then just watch this next part and see kind of a speeded up version of that creation. It's just as well, it's just as well, just as well. Then I slowly realized, that's what the words are. All right, then I slowly realized. All right, here we go. You're up. Made my peace with heaven, lost the war. Then just before I went into there's a little bit of irregularity in the timing, so I'm going to address that. Okay, so that's how you lay tracks down. That's a bass track, and then there's going to be some drums and some other things, and you just build them one thing at a time, like that. And we'll peek in and see how things are going, and then when I get a little bit more done, I'm going to do the vocals. I'm not going to finish everything. I might put the drum track down first, I don't know, before I do the vocals, or I might just do it to that.